Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Aaron Schaller. Hi, Aaron.
Hey.
It's so great to have you on the podcast. I'm so excited about our conversation. So let me introduce you. So Aaron and I met probably like about 6 years ago, and we started working together. Aaron has been,
that sounds about right.
That's right. In the moving and storage industry for the last 15 years. He started his own company, Redefyne Moving in Portland, Oregon. And then, you know, he was struggling. When we first talked, you were definitely struggling. But then, you know, you discovered processes and systems and you implemented it. And with his business partner, Sarah, we have to obviously include also Sarah in this. So, and then, you know, you really thrived and increased, like your stats are amazing. I mean, you just increased the amount of bookings, the amount of sales, the bottom line and everything. And now you actually started a new company, First Call Closers, which basically helps other people to achieve an increase in bookings and sales. So this is definitely a success story, Aaron. So well done. So tell us a little bit where you were, like when you and I met, like what was the situation in your business?
Well, I mean, I'll go back even a little bit further than that. I started this business with just like the intent of paying for college, and things just started getting busier and busier. And so I just kind of went with it. I didn't have any training. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew how to provide the service that I knew. But I didn't know the business aspects, the business side of it. Working with you, we dove into, how important it is to know your numbers, looking at your financial reports, making sure your P&L is categorized correctly. Just having those things, nowadays it's fairly simple and easy, easy processes, but I wasn't doing those things. I didn't know my numbers. I didn't have processes in place. I had a decent system, CRM, okay, but there wasn't any like standard operating procedures for anything. And so what we did is you provided me with so much knowledge and kind of guided me in the right direction to having, instead of what I like to call like a people-driven company, is more what Redefyne Moving is a process-driven company.
That's right.
Because that person, let's say that is occupying a seat, it doesn't matter what department, that person that is occupying, within that department and has roles and responsibilities, if they just leave, then I was like at a point where I don't know what they were doing. And by having a process-driven company, they can leave, and then I have a whole checklist of items with descriptions and responsibilities that I can just hand over to somebody new, and all those processes are documented, and so they can go through the training on how to execute those processes. And so you're not just kind of like scrambling around trying to figure out what they did. Everything is streamlined and done exactly the same way.
Absolutely. I remember that when we started, we had your guys were just doing whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And there was no really a way of training a new employee. So if somebody listening to us right now, what would you say was the impact, like the biggest impact of having well-documented processes on your ability to train new employees?
Well, the most impactful, I would say, when it comes to training new employees, was just discovering the system that worked well for us. Or not maybe the system or the process that worked well for us. And what I did is first I created an outline and on the information that I wanted to provide to the movers. And I just kind of tried to think about it and how would I have liked to be trained? And so what we did is for moving and storage is I set up a whole list of items that I wanted to touch on. And I made it like a classroom environment with, I recorded PowerPoint presentation. So I stood in front of the TV and it was interactive where, I went through the slides and then I had worksheets for the guys and we still use this. And, it goes through each slide and then, the information pops up, like it'll say something like, pad wrap all the furniture and that was blank. And then animation would appear and that would come up and then they'd write it in. So it was interactive, so, Sarah told me this, it's not my statistic. It's, if you, and I'm probably going to butcher it, right? But she goes, people remember, 70% more if they're able to write it down or, surrounding that thought, right? And so that's what I was trying to do is like try and keep people engaged in the presentation by having something for them to do, but they're also writing down very simple items, action items that I wanted them to retain, right? And so we did the classroom environment, and then I have a whole studio apartment in the warehouse where the guys, after day one, after they do the classroom stuff, then they go in and they put it to action on what they learned.
That's right. So you had to balance between studying, and when we document those procedures, they studied it, but then also like applying it, which is very true.
Right.
So Aaron, how would you say, give us some, how would you quantify the results? Because you have quite phenomenal results. Like, how would you quantify the results in your business by having well-documented processes and by having systems in place?
If you do not have those in place, it's going to be really hard to be successful. Everyone's going to be doing their own thing and going in different directions. And your customers are going to all receive, for service industry, they're all going to receive different levels of communication, services. Nothing is going to be streamlined in the same. So by having, let's talk about sales, right? A laid out call flow or script, and people don't need to be like robotic and follow it word for word, as long as those same points are addressed, those main bullet points are touched on, then that customer is going to get the same experience that the next one and the next one and the next one. It's no different than like McDonald's, right? You go to McDonald's, and I'm in Portland, Oregon, but if I go to one in, Atlanta or Florida, anywhere in the country, if I order a cheeseburger, it's going to be the same cheeseburger. And they did that by establishing a process. And so that's the same idea, is that you apply a process, you're going to deliver the same product to each customer, the same experience to each customer. And,
absolutely. And as a result of that, so what were the numbers before and after?
Yeah, so we did the operations processes, and then we really focused on sales. And so just applying good follow-up processes, good communication, like I said about the scripts, the call flows, and lead capture processes, just being able to get the information and having consistent communication, and not just, oh, well, I don't have time for it, or maybe you try to have time for it, but having dedicated people work those processes. They're responsible for those processes. And we went from an 8% booking percentage to a 22% booking percentage. And this is the same number of leads, it was on average about 550 leads. The move value was about $1,500. So we went, I'd have to pull up the slide, but it was like 43 jobs up to, I think it was like 110, something like that. But overall, the revenue, the annual revenue gain by doing that, we didn't spend any more money on marketing. What we did is we had the same opportunities, the same number of leads. We were just booking more of them. And how we did that was by applying consistent communication, being very thorough and following up with our prospective clients, and they're looking to move, like we're talking moving, right? But this applies to just about everything. If somebody reaches out to a home service provider and they're calling a plumber, they're looking, they have a need, and maybe it's like an emergency need. And so what they're doing is they're going to that, going on Google and calling that number, calling your company. And then if you don't answer or respond to their communication, our goal at my new company is we help people with that, but we respond to those leads in 5 minutes or less. That's our goal. And so, because if you don't, and there's an emergency need, they're going to go to that next person on Google and try and get somebody hired,
Absolutely. For sure. So you achieved such a success with your company by systematizing it and adding all these processes and procedures that then you decided, okay, I can help others. So tell us about the new company that you started.
Well, to touch on Redefyne real quick, is I applied all the systems and processes to Redefyne. The moving company is all ran by me reviewing numbers and reports. I am not working in the day-to-day, and that was a huge value that applying systems and processes within the business really provided. It provided me freedom. And because of that freedom, I'm here, now I started up First Call Closers, where we can go in and assist companies with the front end of their sales. I want to help companies, businesses, go from that 8% booking percentage up to that 22, where we're putting more dollars on that bottom line, and our service pays for itself. With the moving company going from that much, we went from like $750,000 to $2.4 million in annual sales. And so people get kind of overwhelmed, maybe they're working the day-to-day in their business, and that's where we provide that solution, And
Absolutely. So it's basically, now that you have the freedom to actually get out of your day-to-day business in your moving business, you were able to actually fulfill and pursue your dream of helping others.
Absolutely. I just saw how impactful it was, and I've seen such a huge problem. Maybe I mentioned a plumber earlier, but it's so many different service providers where they're working in the business, and maybe they're the sole proprietor, maybe they have a few employees, but they don't have the ability to provide the consistency when it comes to communication to their leads, to their potential opportunities. And that's where I'm just like, I see the need, and so I'm just trying to help all these businesses apply a CRM, We'll set all that up. Get their phone system in line. So if they need a call tree, built and call routing to various departments, or maybe it's just one person, we can make it as simple or as complicated as needed. But doing those two things is super overwhelming. I've heard it so many times, like, I don't have the time to do that. And I mean, time is always an issue. It's always like a main objection for business owners. But you know what? We all have the same amount of time in the day. It's how you manage your time.
Absolutely.
And so if you are able to block out an hour a day, a half hour a day, 15 minutes a day, whatever it might be, to working on those processes or systems and setting them up, you're going to see that, you're going to be climbing that ladder, climbing those stairs to accomplish your goal. And
Absolutely.
that's setting that up.
Absolutely.
But at First Call Closers, we kind of take that off people's plate and we're able to set that up for them. So we're providing a solution there as well.
I think it's great. I mean, it's the same thing for us, right? I mean, where would you find, some people do not know, like some business owners don't have the know-how, just like you describe yourself in the beginning. Some business owners do not have the time, and some business owners is a combination of both. So we come as an external company and document your processes and procedures. The same thing you do in terms of actually taking on all this lead capture for a company and booking the calls. So there is a need for done it for you services, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it, like I said, it's just overwhelming. And when it comes to a CRM, there's a lot of not just setting it up, but you have to educate yourself on, how it works. The one that we use, there's a lot involved. There's a lot of setup time.
Right.
But once it's done, and you'll be amazed how well it works for, all these companies.
Absolutely. So what would you say, what is your process when you go into companies now with First Call Closers? What are the different steps that you do for a company? How do you help them?
Well, one of the concerns or curiosities that I've received quite a bit when I'm talking about our services is people will ask me, well, how are you going to know what I know? How are you going to know how to quote people the way that I do? And as I mentioned previously, it's like what I did with the movers is we are going to create an environment where we are trained. We are going to be just as good as, you behind the phone there. It's a whole training program that we're essentially designing. We've already designed it. It's like a whole onboarding process. But it's no different than we have a process behind it. But if we were going to hire, somebody to sit there at a desk and you were, have them take phone calls throughout the day, there would be hopefully some sort of training program there, or it might just be like, here's some education on the company and sit down next to me and you're going to listen to me take some calls, right? And so there might be a call, like a call flow or a script, or there might not be. There probably is. It just might not be documented, it just depends. But those are the things that we're creating on, behind the scenes during the entire onboarding process, so that everything is, just ready to go. We are going to train ourselves because it's what's needed, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So what are some of the benefits that business owners are going to gain or companies are going to gain by engaging with you and letting you help them?
Well, our goal is, as I mentioned, we're talking a lot about booking percentage, and our goal is to increase a company's booking percentage. And how we're going to do that, it's simple. We apply a system, and we can also, I like to do a little quick audit. Some companies might already have a CRM, and we can work within their own CRM, but it's got to have the same capabilities as the one that we use. It's got to have the communication capabilities, the reporting capabilities, super powerful. We talked about numbers a few moments ago too. And if you don't know your numbers and your sales, then you don't know what's working.
Absolutely.
Review your marketing, an ROI report. Do that every month. And so if you don't have a CRM that has the capabilities of doing, that as an example, but many other things, we're missing out. And so,
right.
So,
it's very true. So we need to have a CRM. So let's just summarize for our listeners, like what are the key components of actually increasing your booking ratio? Like if you had to actually name the main components, what would you say those are?
Communication, consistent communication to your leads. You got to have a good system in place, which is your CRM, and you have to be able to your speed to lead has to be very quick. Like I said, our goal is 5 minutes or less. But after
a good CRM, so you capture the lead and you also capture everything that was done with the lead, like the notes and everything, so everybody can pick up and there can be good follow-up. The speed to lead is very important, so you don't lose the leads and you respond right away and they can see that you really care about them. What else?
Then it's all about your follow-up. It's not just that one person that could handle it. As you mentioned, it can be, maybe, I'm out sick tomorrow. And then let's say Sarah's handling the leads, tomorrow. She can jump in and see right where I left off, work all those leads, provide the follow-up that's needed, just checking in with them, however you want to call it, ask them if they have any questions. But never feel like you're being pushy or following up too much. These people asked for your help, right. And so it's more about being diligent and
caring.
Yeah,
right. Absolutely.
But the important part is that it's not just me that owns it. Sarah can jump in, see right where I left off, because we're all following the same process.
Absolutely. Aaron, I really think you figured something out here and you were definitely created success for yourself, and now you are duplicating it so you can help others achieve the same success. So if people want to reach out to you and learn more about what you do, how can they do that?
So we have our website, or my email address, or my direct contact, my phone number.
Good. So we're going to include all of those in the show notes.
Okay, perfect.
And then people are going to reach out to you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Adi.
Awesome. Yeah, it was great having you on this podcast. Thank you so much. And thank you for our listeners for listening.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.